If you drink right kind of water, if you eat whole foods, and if you meditate, you are going to become an agent of change. Your life is going to change in such profound ways that you can't even imagine. When you start being in harmony with who you are. So it's not about anybody else. You don't even need to listen to anybody else. It's not about that. It's coming into harmony with who you are. You are one of a kind. And the only place where you can find yourself, you can't find yourself anywhere else because you're literally one of a kind. So the only place to really unfold your destiny is to listen to who you are, to listen to yourself. Then something beyond your wildest dreams is going to be birthed in this world. You have all the answers. Just be still.
So Mario, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. And I'd love to dive in. So I found you because you speak so beautifully. You work for Analemma, which we'll go into, but you speak so beautifully on water health, both the water itself and for human beings, and sort of more mystical elements of water, which we'll be covering today. But I'd love to hear of your journey to the research and your fascination with water and how you ended up here.
First of all, thank you for having me, Paul. I
Absolute
always
pleasure.
love to talk about this because most people still don't understand what magic is hidden in water. So it's kind of one of the joys of my life just to share this science, and not just the science. I will literally use the right word, the magic of water. So
Mm.
what brought me to it? I was always very, very passionate about health and wellness. I always knew that our bodies were created perfect, that there is this innate repairing system in our body that is really phenomenal. And my kind of thing was to find ways to assist that natural process in a powerful way. This kind of led me. I opened a natural pharmaceutical company, which I ran for years, and I really helped thousands and thousands of people to kind of really handle a lot of health problems, and it's super gratifying thing to do. I did this
Mm.
for many years. Then I decided it was time to move on. I sold the whole business to Walgreens, and then kind of I wanted to throw myself in something that is going to help people and animals and plants and the environment. It was a very tall order. But as universe would have it, I got introduced to Dr. Eric Larker, who is the inventor of Analemma water, and this project, this water, actually ticked all the boxes. I brought a lot of experience from the pharmaceutical world in terms of doing all the studies, designing the studies, executing them, so that people know that there is something biological remarkable happening when you drink this water. And we tested it. I mean, there are extraordinary results on plants because we want to also change how food is grown on this planet, because at this point in time it's terrible how food is grown, and we're actually taking this food inside of our bodies, and that food becomes our bodies. So it's hugely important what kind of food we are eating. So we actually did a lot of research there as well. And also in terms of animal health and environment, there is really beautiful environmental effect of this water. And we're going to touch all of it because it whatever biological system we expose this water to, it actually thrived in very specific ways. So yeah.
It's still startling, isn't it, that when we look at, let's just take human health. When someone goes to the doctor or they have an illness or a chronic illness, the first point of call, aside from the emotional element, but is what water are you consuming? It's not even touched upon by most doctors, even potentially most holistic doctors. It's still sort of overlooked as just as a basic element to being a human being. You just drink, and you don't really think about
Yeah,
it
I
when it's
agree
the
with you.
foundation of our health.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's the most fundamental level of our existence. And I love that you mentioned this because in school we were taught that 70% of our body mass is water. I mean, even that, when you look at it, like 70% of you
It's
is water.
crazy.
But when you look at it from the molecular side of things, 99% of all of our molecules are water. We have only
Mm.
1% of other molecules, heavy molecules. When you look at it, we're basically very clever H2O. If you can imagine, we're more water than the ocean because ocean has 97% molecules water. So it really kind of paints the picture that people didn't, we as a society, as a civilization, we kind of didn't figure out how, this off the bat tells you there is something hugely important about water that we haven't considered before. Let's call it that way.
It's fascinating to me that in the Bible, water exists before the planet. So when it's discussed like these. We're sort of given all the signs through ancient cultures, and certainly there's many other cultures who have revered water. Many indigenous cultures
Yes.
have a much better relationship with water, but unfortunately, our utilitarian approach to all natural resources. It's little wonder that we're sort of in the bind that we are with our health and sort of how we're treating the planet. Thank God there's people like you. So let's let's talk about Amelina and what's being created, and to give people a frame. I guess, do you want to touch upon the different waters and why they're so important? And I'll start with assuming that a lot of people are drinking tap water. Firstly, if they're one grade up, they're drinking some sort of reverse osmosis or filtered or distilled. But do you want to give an overview as to what you've discovered is the best water for us?
Yeah. So interestingly, just so you know, this whole research is like now 17 years in making, 50 plus scientists over 3 continents. So we really went
Wow.
kind of
Yeah.
down the rabbit hole with it. So we realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. It's still H2O, but H2O molecules, they move randomly, they're crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. That chaos has a profound effect on our health and wellness, even though we're unaware. We can go into details why this happened, why water is in chaotic state, but let's leave that for a bit later. We found a way to bring water into a liquid crystalline state. Colloquially speaking, those same chaotic H2O molecules, they start joining hands. They enter into a unison with itself. So the water starts to move as one, no longer as separate from within. And through this unique process,
Mm.
water becomes alive. It actually becomes, its true power is being unleashed. I love always to kind of explain to people in a very simple way that most people can understand. For instance, if you take a light bulb of 5 watts, it will give you some light. But if you take 5 watt laser, which is a focused, structured, coherent form of light, you can drill a hole through your table. So it's the same power, but the way it's structured, the way it's focused, plays a huge impact on what kind of results it delivers. So most of the water, I would say not most, I would say over 99.9% of waters on the planet is in the chaotic state. We actually found water in its natural coherent state, but you have to go really remote, somewhere
Mm.
outside of civilization, and there you can actually find it. Of course, it needs to be a spring, a well, but as soon as you take it out, very soon after you take it out from the well, the water molecules break and the water enters into
Mm.
chaotic state. So it's kind of very hard to kind of find it in that particular state unless you have a hut nearby and you're just drinking it every day. So we always say that Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project because it was super necessary to bring the water back into its natural state so people can really start experiencing what water was meant to do for their lives.
Mm.
And I have to mention one thing because it's super cool that you mentioned it. People always go when they're thinking about water to filtration. But what they don't understand is that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. It's a broadband absorber,
Mm.
receiver, and transmitter of energy frequency and vibration. And even if you, by either reverse osmosis or any other method, if you take the toxin out, the frequency of that toxin still
Still in
stays
it.
in.
Yep.
And if you don't address that part, I'm not going to say that it's 100% the same as you're actually inducing that toxin, but we are vibrational beings. And since 99% of our molecules are water, and since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, we are actually introducing that particular frequency. That's where Analemma actually shows the biggest difference because not only it structures the water in particular way, it primes the water to enter into this vibrational state that is completely clean of all of the toxins. And we, in our early research with plants, we actually we picked up a whole lab by famous German scientist Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. He created this
Mm.
technology that can capture biophotons. So every living thing
Mm.
exudes these tiny particles of light, and you need very sophisticated technology to capture every one. So we realized in early research that when you water plants with Analemma water, they start to exude up to 200% more light. So this is kind of one of the first, let's say, proofs. Okay, there is something really amazing happening here when we started seeing this explosion of light in the plants, and we did it with various fruits and veggies, and results are very, very, very consistent.
I've seen some of those
Mm.
images, and they're incredible. But I just want to touch upon two
Mm.
things because I'm sure people have it to mind. When you mentioned the filtering and the reverse osmosis, I've had another person on, and this is based off the research also I've seen of where you can dilute water endlessly 100 times, and the DNA say that was present in that water or the pollution is still there's still a signature of it, as you said, which is terrifying and incredible at the same time to think of the effect that our intention then can have in water and how water remembers, but also terrible when you
Yeah.
think of the pollutants latent in it. So even if you're doing all the things, as you said, it will still be there. And I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, the work, some of Veda Austin's work, and I've done it actually here at home with the crystallography where I've taken tap water, frozen it, and then taken structured water and frozen it. I'll put some up on screen actually for when people are watching this on YouTube to show. But the differences that you can visually see in the, as you said, in this chaotic, disordered molecular structure comparative to the crystalline structures that the structured water has. It's so obviously just from that self-evident. You don't even need to see the science. If you see that with your eyes, there's something in us that just calls us back to that geometry, to that beauty.
Yeah, there is natural harmony in everything once you bring into that particular natural state. I love that you mentioned Veda. Veda is like she's
That's just
amazing
gorgeous.
in so many ways. I mean, her work truly, truly shows to people. And I invite all of your listeners, if they haven't actually seen Veda Austin's work, to kind of go there. They will literally see how mind blowing it is to observe the intelligence of water. Like
Mm.
her image work, or one of the biggest ones is, for instance, when she wrote Excalibur. So it's a word, okay? You just wrote
Mm.
Excalibur on the piece of paper. She put a petri dish on, okay, and the water created a sword. So there is really powerful intelligence there. So water picked up the meaning of letters and created an image of a sword. I mean, come on. That if that isn't magical, I don't know what is. So this her work really shows that there is something extraordinary about water that we just don't understand. And what I love about Aveda at her one of her workshops, actually we brought Analemma, so people were actually making their own images of it, and the crystal was just amazing and beautiful. When water enters into this state, there are these natural patterns that start to emerge. And just like you mentioned, it's a physical thing. You can see it for yourself.
Mm.
You can literally see the same tap water that you crystallized and see like that it's broken, and then it organizes itself in this beautiful, beautiful crystal just from using the Analemma wand on it. So it's a really beautiful thing to observe.
And to bring home this point, I guess for people to go to show how deeply this goes for our bodies, and also as you mentioned, plant life, animals, all life. But when you take the work of Gerard Pollack and you look at easy water and the structure of that fourth phase of water, which his lab found, which is around every single one of ourselves. So it's the thing that's keeping us useful, young, our body operating properly. That is crystalline structured water. So the drain, when you then think of if we're drinking unstructured water and our body's having to structure it, the drag on your biological system to do that rather than actually drink the water that it was designed to drink, which unfortunately is a long way back now. I don't know when we probably screwed our water up,
Yeah.
but it was probably a while ago. But yeah, do you want to talk to that and how Amelina solves that issue for people?
Well, when
Sorry, it's a big one.
yeah. So, to take one step back, it takes one full year for us to create what we call the mother water. It takes 5 stages the water needs to pass through. And when it passes the fifth stage, the water goes in a state we've now tested it for 8 years consecutively. After just one treatment, the water never goes back to chaos. And
Wow.
we radiated it. Usually, we were one of the first scientists that realized that water goes berserk near EMFs. If you put a glass of water next to a Wi-Fi router, it's going to become deeply,
Mm,
deeply chaotic. So,
yeah.
since we realized,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, if people want a visual of that, Vader's got that exact thing that you mentioned in the crystalline structure of water next to an EMF to see. Sorry to cut you. I
yeah,
cut you
no,
off
no,
mid
no,
flow,
no,
but
no,
I
no
just
worries, no worries.
that just popped into my
No,
head.
it
Sorry.
is, and I love that you're bringing up Veda because she did a lot of research and it's very visual, so people can actually see that that happens. It's not like you have to. Her work is really very, very descriptive. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yep.
So since when we realized that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, our quest was to create the most dominant positive frequency water there is because we knew that if we would expose any other water to it, all the water would become it because again, water picks up the
Mm,
most dominant frequency of its environment. That's where we went. And when we created the mother water, what we did, we actually, in our first application, now we have more than several, but in the first application, it was a crystal wand or a vial that we filled with mother water, and it has a holder on top. So, literally, how it works you take a glass of water and you take the Analemma wand and you submerge it in water and start swirling. And what happens is that any H2O molecule, chaotic H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water, it starts to mimic its exact structure. So, in an effect, after 20 seconds, 30 seconds of swirling, you get a glass of mother water. And you drink it and you have the effect. So, this is where it's so elegant, like how it works. Of course, it's complex from one end, but from one end
mm,
is really elegant and really simple and really beautiful. And I really think that nature always works like that in an
mm.
elegant, simple, beautiful, and yet very powerful way. And now it's a good opportunity to jump in the first human study
No,
that
the
we did.
study. I'd love to hear. Yeah, I was going to say, what are some of so? What are the benefits?
Yeah,
What
so
have you
the
studied?
first
What have you
human
seen?
study we actually did, since we realized that this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon, our kind of thing was what is the most electromagnetic part of human biology that we can very accurately measure? And it's our brainwaves. You can just put QEEG equipment and you can monitor the brainwave patterns. So we did a double blind study and golden standard study because we used two genetically identical individuals. So whatever happens to one must happen to the other one. And not only that, they're genetically identical. So it really is a golden standard study, and very rarely people have the opportunity to do those kinds of studies. So we were super thrilled to do it. So what we did, we just brought two twins to the lab. They actually put QEEG equipment on their heads. The doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. They just took a couple of sips of water, and we monitored their brainwave patterns in real time. So the twin that took a couple of sips of regular water, as you would expect, we saw nothing really happen. Everything stayed the same. But
Mm.
interestingly, almost as soon as the twin that took a couple of sips of Analemma water, there was an almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, an almost instant harmonizing effect on the brain waves. And there is this thing called delta coherence that usually happens when people either meditate or they're using psychedelics. There is this unison, the whole brain gets connected. This was the effect. This was the first powerful, irrefutable evidence that something really biologically remarkable happens and very fast. And then we repeated the experiments 3 weeks later, and we gave an lemon water to the other twin. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon. It was again double blind. They didn't know which one was which. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon while now the new twin took a couple of sips of analemma water, while the other one took regular water, and again, nothing happened. So this was really powerful evidence that something, I would say, miraculous actually happens, because very rarely you can see such a powerful effect, which is visceral and all encompassing.
Was it straight? What are we talking about time wise from drinking the water? So was it immediate?
Yeah, it was in a couple of minutes. All of this was done in a
Wow.
couple of minutes. So that's why people, I believe, that's why people immediately perceive. I would say 95% of people perceive the difference in taste. Even though I'm not sure whether it's the taste, most probably is I kind of immediately saw it, but I believe it's visceral. It's much deeper, and then your body perceives, okay, this is different in some way or form. And interestingly, I love Dr. Mindy Pelt. She's an amazing
Mm.
a woman, and I've been on her podcast, and she told me she's regularly using analemma water, and her sister is a very accomplished physician, I think, or I don't know if she's a physician or PhD at Stanford, Yale, or Harvard. I'm not sure, but anyhow, she saw Mindy swirling her wand in a glass of water and was like, she was super skeptical. Like, what are you doing there? Like, what is this now? You know? And then Mindy told her, let's do a blind taste test. And 5 out of 5, her skeptical sister said, this is the one. And she couldn't even, blew her mind. Why? Why you're just swirling the same water with this wand, and there is a really palpable, perceivable difference in taste of the water. So there is something that happens almost instantly that you can feel. But of course, we did midterm, long term results, all of it. But this is, let's say, something that you can really sense almost immediately as you start drinking the water.
I've done those same benchtop uh, tests with friends with structuring, and they always choose the structured water
Interestingly,
without even.
yeah, interestingly, it's so funny that employee of mine, she's actually a PhD as well in molecular biology. She has a cat, and she wanted to see
Yeah.
how, and she just took two kind of balls, and one regular water, one LMA, an LM water, and cat always drank the one that has an lemon water. So this is also one kind of, let's say, simple yet again very indicative change that you can see. And animals just
Mm.
drink lemon water. They sense, okay, I want to drink this and not that one.
This is what I love about the technology is that people don't need to be believers. In fact, I've given different waters to people who've been ill, very skeptical, sort of more traditionally based as we would in the Western sick care system. And just from this water, that they don't need to believe because they start to feel better. As you said, it's an intuitive response to something our body understands. So it's such an easy fix. Yeah, it's such an easy fix for people.
Yeah, and it's really, I would say that consciousness marries the form through water. That's why I
Yeah,
say it's the
it's
most
beautifully said.
fundamental level of our existence. And when you change that, entire biology
Mm,
follows. And this is
mm,
what we proved in all of the studies. Actually, maybe this is a good opportunity to jump on our second study that we did. It was a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we wanted to measure our cellular energy. We measured ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the primary energy currency of the cell, and it's directly responsible for powering the majority processes inside of our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions, basically every heartbeat, every breath, every cognitive function depends on ATP. So we actually took a snapshot of people's ATP levels in the beginning of the study. We actually
mm,
deployed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can very accurately measure ATP levels in humans because we really wanted a scientific method that you can 100% rely on. So again, we
mm.
took a snapshot of ATP levels in the participants of the study. Then they drank a liter and a half of an lemon water for 2 months without changing anything else in the world. So they didn't change their exercise regime. They didn't change their diets. They didn't take any supplements. So it was very controlled environment so that the only thing that changed in their life was water. And after 2 months, we did another a checkup. So we draw their blood and we measured ATP levels. And what we saw was 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. When you take the placebo in, that's like one
That's
third
that's
of
massive.
entire mitochondrial energy. It's when we're not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual
Thank
mitochondrial,
God.
yeah, energy. So if you give your body just a couple of percent more, it's going to be
Mm,
much more capable to repair anything that's happening in your body. And not only that, most people usually kind of perceive ATP as connected to endurance and physical power and athletic performance. But what they don't actually, most people don't realize that the biggest spender of ATP is our brain.
right. Mm,
25% of all of our cellular energy goes just to feed the brain. For one neuron to send an impulse to a neighboring cell, it needs to hydrolyze 1 billion ATP molecules. And there are billions of neurons. So, of course, and that's why people with high ATP levels have much higher cognitive performance. So it's not
mm,
just about your physical performance. It's not just about your ability to endure. It's about your cognitive performance as well. So that was the study that we did where we kind of really saw. I mean, we kind of did the early work on plants, and we saw that there is this explosion of light, but we wanted to see how would that correlate on in humans in some way that we can very accurately measure. So we went with ATP.
So then on the energy production side, how does this equate to longevity? So for people who are on the yeah.
Totally. It relates. But that's why we did the second study, which is the NAD study, also double blind placebo controlled, because NAD is like cellular fountain of youth. And
Yeah.
So again, to cut the long story short, we did the same procedure, double-blind placebo control. We measured NAD levels because NAD is not only heavily involved in cellular energy production. NAD actually activates sirtuins, which are these enzymes that repair
Mm.
damaged DNA. So NAD is connected not only to a longer lifespan, it's connected to a longer health span, which is a hugely important thing because you don't just want to kind of be 120 years old. You want to be healthy at that time and not just kind of broken down and just surviving. And NAD is also phenomenal for brain health because it fuels neuronal activity and it supports neurotransmitter synthesis. And it's phenomenal for cardiovascular and metabolic health because it improves mitochondrial activity and it also improves insulin sensitivity. It lowers inflammation and it lowers oxidative stress. And these are the two key drivers of all diseases that we actually contrive in our life. And it actually
Mm.
regulates it interacts with genes that regulate circadian rhythm. So high NAD levels also promote restful sleep.
Better sleep.
And this
Yeah.
all correlates in longer lifespan and longer health span. And when you combine that with ATP, these are the two fundamental kind of pillars of our health.
So what I also love about this approach to the two things you mentioned, I mean, people who are in the health and wellness space would have heard of supplements to do with both of those ATP and NAD, which is, and Dr. Sinclair and how and the explosion of NAD products as a result. What I love about doing it this way with water and with a device is that you're not going to throw your body out with either taking too much or too little. Your body's naturally going to modulate itself down to the right amount that your body naturally will produce and needs. And so you're removing all the dangers of what supplementation entail. And you're also not taking, who knows where a lot of these supplements may be made or the efficacy around them. And we still don't have studies for the long-term impacts on them. Yet you're solving this problem with a natural process to help boost these levels anyway, which is always the approach I think we need to take to health to begin with before we look at introducing something.
I agree with you 100%. The most natural ways are always the best. I would say the quality of water you drink, the quality of food that you're eating. So you're not eating processed
Mm.
food, you're trying to eat organic food. The quality of air you breathe, and I would say breathing practices and meditation. This is the way to go. This is the way to really live a vibrant, beautiful life.
Mm. I love it. So I, I want to. Oh, actually, you just touched upon it. So, for people's gardens and for foods and for crops, what have you seen with watering them with this water as opposed to the standard?
Yeah, we're receiving like thousands of letters from people all over the planet. They're sending us images of their plants, but we didn't want to stop there. We did this study where we wanted to prove extraordinary resilience that plants receive once they're being watered with Analemma water. So we did this fluorescence-based, the latest fluorescence-based technology, where we took basil plants and we watered some with regular water, some with Analemma water, and we created a short-term drought. So we created a powerful stressor, and then we allowed the
Mm.
plant to recover, and we monitored what happens in the plant on a molecular level. And basically, every single marker of the plant's resilience to stress got dramatically improved when you watered the plant with analemma water. And this was inspired by my own experience. I had a basil plant in my summer house, and I had to leave for a week, and it was super hot. And when I came, I was actually watering the plant with analemma water, as all of my plants. And I came back after a week, and usually basil is a very, very delicate plant. If you leave
It
basil
is.
plant on high heat with no water for a week, it will be dead. And I came back, and the basil plant was vibrant, like nothing touched it, and I didn't give it a drop of water. because I had to leave and I kind of didn't organize the whole thing. So it was a really powerful, very very strong indicator again of what it does. So I just like, let's do the study. Let's actually do a proper study to see what actually happens here, and then everything. The results spoke for themselves. Which, for instance, we're living in a time of extremes now in terms of
Mm.
weather. So either you have high heat or you have the flood, and you need plants to be resilient, to resist the stress, and still produce a strong produce so we can live off it. And this is definitely something that truly showed that effect. And we've seen it across every single fruit and veggie that we did this on, and in terms of yield and some other elements. Actually, I can mention this, which is a super interesting story. We actually had a large greenhouse in the Netherlands where we did all of our plant research in the beginning, and we decided to leave that part of the research was done, and one farmer actually picked up the whole greenhouse. And since we had all of the equipment there, he continued to water the plants with Analemma water. And interestingly, he produces this organic cucumber that gives yield of 10 to 12 weeks in a year. Now he's at
Mm.
24.
Oh, geez,
24
doubled.
weeks, doubled. So it doubled the yield.
Yeah,
And not only that, we realized in a research when, for instance, we grew tomatoes, and when you take the seed out and plant it, and then you do this for 3 generations, after 3 generations, you almost don't need to use any form of pesticide because the plant becomes so resilient to any kind of
yeah.
attacker that it just resists. So this is the way that's why we didn't know the power water has. And again, I'm coming back. We really believe that Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project. And it can help us thrive in the times of stress, not only plants, but us as humans.
Mm. While you're talking, there's a part of my mind that's going to the mystical element at the heart of Amelina in terms of this what do you call the water in Iran? Is it origin water, mother water?
Mother water.
What's
Yeah.
your It's the mother water. It's such a small amount of mother water, and look at the entrainment that it's having on the life around it, which when I extrapolate outward to us as a species, the ability for us to make drastic change when only a small percentage of us entrain that higher frequency that brings everything else up. It's such a more powerful way of self-empowering way of viewing your life, as opposed to going out there and fixing things in the old way and protest. And I'm not dismissing there's nuance. There's cause to stand up and do things, and sometimes there's cause to be silent. But ultimately, what place are you doing that from? Are you doing that from an aware, conscious position, or from an angry, victimized position? And I
I
feel like
couldn't
Mother
agree.
Nature is
Yeah,
showing
I
us.
couldn't agree with you more.
So it's quite profound. It's just profound. I'm just thinking of the small, because I have an Amelina, and I think of the small one that because when people see this, it's not a big device. It's not some huge filtering thing that goes under your sink. Uh, and look at the effect. Yeah.
That's why I say it's elegant and beautiful and profound and all encompassing. And now it's a great time to tell you one of the studies that really, 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 really blew our minds. So we took this tiny piece of life, okay, seed, and we
Mm.
watered some with regular water and some with NLM water. And we monitored biophoton emissions to see whether something is going to happen. And the seeds that were watered with regular water, we saw zero change in biophoton emissions. But almost as soon as we started to water the seeds with NLM water, we started seeing this really like peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. It's like the seed started to breathe light in and out, but in a very long form. And we were like, we couldn't figure out what was happening there. We were just really puzzled. And we connected to other scientists because we wanted to kind of unlock what was happening there. And we realized that it started to follow the tides.
Oh my gosh.
So Analemma water connected this tiny piece of life to the circadian rhythm
To the
of
ocean.
nature. So
Yeah.
this that's why we call this water conscious water, because at this point in time, particularly in the, let's say, landscape of what's happening on the planet, our planet is changing. Our planet is awakening. And this water connects you to the earth. You start to move with the earth electromagnetically. You're a part of it. You're not separate. You're not separate. First of all, people are very often separate from themselves, and they're separate
Mm.
from everybody else and everything else. But this connects you on a deep electromagnetic level with your relevant environment. You become one with it. You flow with the earth, and you're not cut off. And that's why I say I really believe this is the most important thing that this water does for you. Health benefits are extraordinary, no questions about it. But I truly believe that this is the effect that makes all the difference, because you are becoming one with everything that's relevant for you. I'm just going to, I'm not going to say that this next thing that I'm going to say that Analemma will do this for you, but it's just going to paint a picture. For instance, when there was a huge tsunami in early 2000s in Indonesia, all of the animals, they've sensed that something is coming, and
Mm.
they all went uphill if they were not tied down. And humans just stayed there.
Mm.
And there
Mm.
was a huge death toll. Animals knew, animals felt. Why? Because they're still one with the earth, one with, in really visceral way, with everything that's happening around them. And interestingly, I can tell you a story that Analemma inventor, the Dr. Clark, was actually there at that time, and he got
Wow.
a real sense
A
that
sense.
something was wrong, and he
Yeah.
left. He's supposed
Yeah.
to stay for a week, but he left because there is something wrong. And
Yeah.
next day, tsunami hit, and
Mm.
over 200,000 people died.
I remember it. Yeah.
So these
We
are,
just
yeah.
don't. No, I was just going to. There's two things. I mean, we all have those abilities to feel, but we cut. I believe we cut them off, or we don't listen to those voices, or we're not, as you said, connected to it at all. So it completely pisses us. I wanted to bring up something that you mentioned with the animals and understanding the earth. It was some, I believe it was a New Zealand scientist who studied humpback whales, and I think I'm going to get the tree wrong. I believe it's the Kuri tree, and he realized that the whale was sending certain signals and songs to the shore, and then we started wondering why, because there's no other whales there. And then we monitored the sounds coming from the coast, and there was one particular tree that was sending similar signals, vibrational, into the water. So the whale and the tree were in direct communion and conversation, which just gives me absolute chills to think about. I mean, it's
Totally.
not surprising. Of course, the world is animate, but that's just such a beautiful representation of how everything is alive. And it's our perception that makes it dead. It doesn't then mean it's not living because we don't perceive it. It's like all the colors. We don't perceive many colors compared to most animals, or a lot of animals.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And Krishnamurti said this, and Adyashanti kind of said it several times afterwards. I love this thing. Like when you see this beautiful winged creature land on a branch of a tree, and you're just in awe, and then you call it a bird.
Yes, I love. I read that
And then, oh,
recently. Yeah,
it's a bird.
reduce it.
Reduce it to a label, to a name. And a moment before, there was an awe of this
Yeah.
extraordinary creature, magical creature almost. But as soon as you call it a bird, so this is exactly, we need to come back to the true magic of life, to
Mm.
observe the world with new eyes. And when we do that, we're just going to be left in awe all the time.
Yeah.
This is where children
It's
live.
funny. I was just about to say that that's I think when we talk to these things and people get the chills, it's because it's the world that you inhabited when you were a child. It was that sense of deep, profound mystery that we somewhat get beaten out of us by the culture, or we just lose touch with it as we grow older. And it was, I have a short story on that. Like, I ask before I fall asleep every night for my dreams to show me what I need to know at this stage of my life and for me to remember. And then I keep a diary and I just write down frantically the dream when I wake up. And I had a very clear picture of an artist I like here, and one of his images is of an old man sitting in a chair, and there's a young girl whispering into his ear. The artist is Bill Henson. I'll put it up on the screen for people who are watching. But it was just that thing that you reminded that you said, and it was a reminder to listen to the child within, rather than become the old man who's dead to the world, but to keep listening to that voice. And I kind of feel like that's the key to life, is that endless inquisitiveness. And instead of trying to know everything, we can't know it. Like, the more you look at water and its effects, and I'm sure you tested this with the studies, the more blown away you are, and the more you go, I have no idea what this thing is. If you observe a river in movement without languaging it, what the hell is that?
I agree with you 100%. Like, this is what Zen Buddhists call the beginner's mind. If you stay in the
Mm,
beginner's mind, like, I don't know, then you're 100% open and you can perceive everything. But the moment you say, I know this, you're basically closed. And I believe that we as a civilization, people many times say, oh, we are very advanced. I think that we're in the
mhm,
kindergartens in terms of where we can and will go. So there are, however fast we grow, we're still slow. There are so many things to discover. We are extraordinary beings of light. We are embodiments of such an I can't even I'm missing words of
language.
what we actually are at the deepest part of our being. So we don't need to look outside, we need to look inside, and when we'll see it inside, then we're going to see it apparent everywhere. That's why I really believe that water helps tremendously to kind of connect you within, but you need to then take the step. That's why I say that meditation practice, in any way or form, it can be prayer, or you're in some way communicating with the deepest and the highest part of yourself. And the more you connect and communicate with that, the more your life changes in the deepest and most profounding ways. And not only that, then automatically you become an agent of that in the world. And you don't even have to do anything. You're just
Mm.
being yourself. And you're just shining a light on people. This is the way you become the light of the world, I believe. And there is this kind of really interesting thing, just to put things in perspective. A cubic centimeter of us, and we are radiating 10,000 times more light than cubic centimeter of the sun. So when you're embracing someone, you're literally putting him into sunshine. We are not aware of how
Mm.
incredible we are as beings.
I've got a very dear friend here who she's in her early 80s, or she might just be 80, but she's had a lot of grief recently in the last few years with a child passing and a whole host. So she's an incredible person. So she still embodies a lot of love within her naturally. But you could see the grief for a number of years. And now she's just recently met a fellow. She's got a boyfriend.
Oh,
He's a wonderful guy. And
sweet.
I caught up with her for lunch, but they spent the week together, and she came in and she was literally glowing. And all I thought was, God, the power of love to completely change someone's physiology. And she looked 10 years younger. She looked good anyway for her age, but she looked like timeless, glowing.
Mm.
I could see the glow. And it was just a reminder of that state of consciousness of being in love and giving love. can completely transform our physiology. And as you said, like we're just at the very precipice of understanding what all of these things may lead to
I
and what our
yeah.
potential
I
is.
truly believe that we are going to have some chaotic times, but I believe that we are going into like the best time that our civilization has ever seen. The beauty and
Mm.
like there is this book Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and God said
Oh,
it
I
in book
love that book.
yeah,
Yeah.
he said like the beauty and the fragrance of your flowering shall fill the land, and you shall yet take your place in the garden of gods. And I truly believe this is our destiny. There is like our soul is the like the speck of God within us, and when we really embody that fully, and we just forget all of the from the nightmare of our own creation into the wondrous dream of what our life was intended to be. This is exactly what is happening now. It's going to be a bumpy ride for a while, but I believe this is just like us going through birthing canal, and it's always kind of chaotic. But at the end of it is just magic.
And the power is we have the choice too. I mean, despite the world being as chaotic as it is, you don't have to
Agreed.
be equally as chaotic. You have the power to be that person who brings in the next stage of what civilization could be.
And this is the way I really kind of my wife, she's an intuitive, she's amazing in so many ways, and she has this visions of what is going to come in the years, and she saw these lighthouses, kind of lighthouses on the planet, and there are it's like a power grid of people that are going to anchor the frequency of this new earth. So we are not going to
Mm,
have Wi-Fi people vibrating in that particular frequency or way. They're just going to connect and create completely different kind of internet, which is going to hold the earth and everything that is emerging in a beautiful way. Of course, there are going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be, let's say, moving with the earth, and I believe they're going to really pass through times of suffering. But just like you mentioned, it's just a step away. It's just a choice away. It's just what are you listening? Are you listening to your fears, or are you listening to where your destiny is calling you? And it's
mm.
true for everyone.
Mario, I'm deeply grateful for your time. I really want to hear what's next for Amelina because I something that you said to do the first study of linking the right and left side of the brain and bringing the full brain online that you see during psilocybin or meditation just from drinking the water. That's what I love about this. I think the health side, which is a worthy cause in and of itself to improve people's health, to improve the planet's health, absolutely. But why I'm so passionate about cleaning the water globally is for the consciousness aspect, for precisely what you said about once that brain hemispheres are linked up and you start to feel a connection again, making decisions which benefit all of us and based in fear become a lot easier because you can begin to see them. Because when we're in that consistently disordered, dysregulated, discombobulated state, we make terrible decisions. Or we have other people who seem to know what they're talking about to make decisions for us. Where this one simple change, everything could change.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And that's why it's so, so, so important to start listening to your inner voice. To, at this point in time, the number one thing is to become truly intuitive, not to listen to your mind, but to listen to this deeper part of yourself. That's my wife. That's why my wife actually created a. She was invited in Oxford, on Oxford University. She did a program on your inner voice because it's super, super, super. Maybe you can have her on her podcast if you want, because she's a truly,
Oh, I'd love to,
truly,
yeah.
truly amazing guest. And the actually, just so you know, it's a funny thing. A year before I got involved with Analemma Water, she saw it. So we talked about. She said, like, okay, I see this. swirling and I see water and I was thinking, okay, there is huge importance. I was thinking, okay, I should create something. And then I was thinking, what can I do? And she saw kind of crystal and actually the vial is made of a crystal. So it was super crazy. I was thinking, okay, what can I do something? And I couldn't figure out. And some time passed and I was involved and I was introduced to Dr. Clark and everything else is history. So she saw it ahead of time. There are these patterns, and if we follow them, if we move with them, then our destiny, our highest destiny, actually emerges from that. But for that, we need to be intuitive. We need to be able to be still and listen. And I believe that when we're still enough, I don't think that we even have to make an action. The action makes itself because it's self-evident.
Mm.
You're kind
Yeah.
of like choiceless. There is no other way but to flow that way. When you're in mind, then there are thousands of choices, and you don't know where to go. But when you're still enough, it actually moves you, and I love that.
Well, yeah, I love it because you're operating from clarity as opposed to fear or hustling.
E-
It's just
exactly
the
that.
way becomes clear. Yeah. Well, I will leave everything for people to find Amelita and in the show notes. I do want to just ask you one final question. Are you working on, is it possible to put Amelita into, say, a large body of water, some form of device that people, for say, a city? Is that something
Yeah, we
that's in the
already
future?
created the technology. So
It's already there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's
So
the, yeah.
because this is the mission statement of our company. We want to make all the bodies of water on this planet coherent again. And we created this eco-friendly, beautiful technology that we can just install at the wells of the biggest rivers, because then all of the water down the line is going to
Runs
be
through
in
it.
this extraordinary state. And not only that, I mean, all the life would thrive. The microbiome, which we actually didn't even talk about, the microbiome and everything that shifts. But anyhow, life down the stream would change. And then that water is going to end up in the oceans. And then the oceans in a certain period of time. And nature takes very little time to regenerate. We're not even aware how fast this could happen. And then if all the oceans are in coherent state and water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration, then we have entire planet in the state of coherence. Then there is not going to be violence there. Then there is not going to be trauma. Then there is not going to be anything that we would not want. We're just going to vibrate in this beautiful harmonic frequencies. And just that can change the face of the earth in a couple of years. I'm not even going to say one generation.
Mario, it's a future calling us, and I can't think of a better place to finish. Is there anything you'd like to leave people with?
I think we covered a lot, but I would just like to kind of remind people, if you drink right kind of water, if you eat whole foods, and if you meditate, you are going to become an agent of change. Your life is going to change in such profound ways that you can't even imagine. When you start being in harmony with who you are. So it's not about anybody else. You don't even need to listen to anybody else. It's not about that. It's about becoming and coming into harmony with who you are, your original self. Like in the history of time and never in the history of and never in the future, it's going to be an individual like you. You are literally irreplaceable. You are one of a kind, and the only place where you can find yourself, you can't find yourself anywhere else because you're literally one of a kind. So the only place to really unfold your destiny is to listen to who you are, to listen to yourself. Then something beyond your wildest dreams is going to be birthed in this world. So you have all the answers. Just be still.
Mario, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me. And thank you for being the lighthouse that you are. You literally are that lighthouse that kind of one of wherever your point of influence is, when you bring all these kind of messages, this information that is super important at this point in time, you're actually unfolding your highest destiny. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mario. I feel like you're 10 lighthouses. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.